This story starts with me and my wife being happily married. We have two wonderful daughters, aged 13 and 10, and we had what I believed was a pretty healthy relationship. However, at some point, things started to feel strange. She became overly attached to her phone, deleting the saved passwords on our shared computer, and abruptly ending phone calls when I entered the house or the room. You can probably guess what it looked like. With 15 years of marriage behind us, I hoped it wasn't what it seemed to be so obviously. One day when my wife told me she was going to spend time with the girls, I decided to follow her. As expected, I found her driving to a hotel to meet with someone I'll call Peter. It was more than just a gut punch. I cried for a whole hour without stopping. Once I was done wallowing in self-pity, I thought about getting even. Various scenarios involving me aggressively confronting Peter crossed my mind. However, I eventually opted for a more civil and legal approach, but just barely. So, the first step of my plan was to gather evidence. Instead of hiring a private investigator, I came up with a better idea. While my wife was at work and the kids were at school, I installed some small hidden cameras and microphones that I had purchased. I even managed to set one up perfectly overlooking our bed due to our bedroom setup. However, I made sure not to use them while I was at home. After a few days, I suggested to my wife that the weekend after next, I should take the girls on a trip to a place I won't disclose, and we could spend a night there too. It's worth mentioning that due to her demanding and often exhausting job, and our different interests and talents, I had always been the main caregiver. I took on the role of cooking and played a more active part in raising the girls, showing them a lot of patience and attention without spoiling them. So, it wasn't unusual for me to take the girls on a trip alone. This detail will become important later in the story. Over the next 2 weeks, I got everything in order and contacted a lawyer to create a separation agreement that would grant me residence and custody. Finally, I went on the trip, trying not to reveal anything to the girls, and waited to see if Peter and my wife would fall into the trap. When I came back, I reviewed the recordings from the weekend, and indeed, it was a 36-hour closeness fest. When they weren't ducking, their conversation was even more intriguing. I learned that Peter had a wife, but I'll share more about her later. But what was even worse was that they discussed me in their conversations. In addition to the expected comments about my physical attributes and how I failed to satisfy her, there were some really hurtful remarks. For instance, she shared some of my deepest secrets and shameful stories with Peter, things I had only confided in her, just so they could mock and laugh at me. By this time, I was certain about what I needed to do. The following day, before the kids left but before my wife also left, I confronted her with the video evidence and gave her an ultimatum. Either she signs the separation agreement and leaves the house, or the girls will receive a detailed explanation of all the cheating details. I want to make it clear that I had no intention of actually following through with the threat. I love my daughters too much to put them through that. However, I did use the bluff to put pressure on her, and she was too emotional to see through it. She went through all the stages: denial, attempts to negotiate, threats, and anger. I allowed her to go through all of it. Eventually, she signed the separation agreement, and that same evening, she left after saying her goodbyes to the girls. I didn't show or tell the girls any explicit details. I've always been honest with them, and that's why I was their favorite parent. So I simply told them that mommy had been unfaithful. It took some time for the younger one to understand, but my older daughter got really upset. She had just gotten her first boyfriend, though it's not a clear term at that age, but she was mature enough to be furious. This could be important in a potential custody battle, as she agreed to give up custody for now, but I feared, and I was right, that she might try to fight me for the kids. What I didn't expect was for her to use her visitation rights to badmouth me. Basically, she started telling my younger daughter that it was all my fault for not forgiving her. Her lawyer even began demanding that she should get custody, though she couldn't receive money or the house due to being caught cheating, which matters a lot in divorce proceedings in my state. So, I finally put my revenge plan into action. I decided to take a trip to South Carolina. Why South Carolina? Because I really wanted my daughters to see Fort Sumter. I definitely didn't go there because it's one of the last places where Revenge X movies isn't illegal, and where I could upload my wife and Peter's escapades on a famous X website and other similar sites without facing prosecution, as it wasn't illegal when and where the acts took place. I sent the links to my wife's employer, her clients, and everyone in her line of work just to be sure. I also sent the links to Peter's wife and his firm. Peter soon went through a divorce. I feel sorry for his wife as she was an innocent victim in all of this, but I think it's better that she found out. As for my wife, this was the end of any chance to get custody. She soon got fired from her job of 8 years. While the Revenge X video part was a mean move, it couldn't be prosecuted in South Carolina, so it only reflected negatively on my personality in court. However, my wife's unemployment, being blacklisted in her profession due to being on an X website, and the girls, especially my older daughter influencing the younger, stating they wanted to stay with me, made it clear who would get custody. Since she was unemployed, I received no alimony, but I make enough money to support both me and the girls, and I can handle a full-time job while caring for them, as they are old enough to allow me to do so. Several months later, my wife is still unemployed, though I'm not sure if it's because of her movie or the virus situation. The girls are growing up just fine, and they don't seem to mind not seeing their mother. The last time I communicated with my ex-wife was on Facebook, where she told me how I ruined her life and her relationship with her daughters, but honestly, I think she earned it. I'm a 40-year-old woman, and my husband is 42. We got married when I was 22, and he was 23. So far, our marriage has been great. We have a 12-year-old daughter and a 14-year-old son together. However, recently, I've been having a strange feeling that my husband might be in love with my sister. Just to provide some background, my sister, who is 43, has always disliked me. Even though she was our parents' favorite while we were growing up, she held this hatred towards me and always took away things I loved. For example, when I was younger, I enjoyed playing soccer and was good at it. When my sister found out, she also started playing soccer, but she wasn't better than me, not to brag. One day my sister injured her ankles, and somehow she blamed me for it. She told our parents, who believed her because she was their favorite. As a result, they banned me from playing soccer ever again, even though it wasn't my fault. Additionally, she took my first boyfriend and bullied me at school, but I didn't speak up and mostly kept to myself. Now, recently I had this feeling that my husband might be in love with my sister. When she got divorced, she immediately called my husband, and he went to her without any hesitation. It's always been like this. Whenever she needs him, he's there for her without a second thought. About 2 months ago, our 12-year-old daughter broke her arm, and both my husband and I went to the hospital with her while our son was at his friend's place. When we got back home, my daughter asked if she could have McDonald's. So I went out to get it for her since she really wanted it. She also wanted her dad to stay with her, as she's always been close to him. When I returned home with the food, I saw my husband leaving with our daughter crying and pleading for him to stay. I rushed over to find out what was going on, and he told me he was going to my sister's because she wasn't feeling well. I was upset and asked why he was going there when our daughter had just broken her arm. He only replied that his sister needed him and left. This made me extremely angry, so I packed bags for myself, my daughter, and my son, and we went to stay at my aunt's place. She was the only family member who agreed that my sister was difficult, so I spent much of my childhood with her. 2 days later, I had to return home because I forgot my work computer. When I got there, I was shocked by what I saw. My husband and my sister were on the couch in our family home, engaged in something they shouldn't have been doing. As soon as they saw me, they hurriedly dressed up, and my husband rushed towards me, insisting that it wasn't what it appeared to be, and that it was all a big misunderstanding. I yelled back at him, asking how he could betray me like this, and if I didn't matter to him, and I yelled that I wanted a divorce, and then I left. After reaching my aunt's place, I went straight to the room where I was staying and couldn't hold back my tears. I feel lost and don't know what to do next. Despite asking my aunt not to, she's already told our parents and many family members about the situation, which makes me both upset and relieved, as I didn't have the courage to do it myself. My husband and sister have been sending me a lot of text messages, but I've been ignoring them. I'm really unsure about how to break this news to my kids. Update. One part of me was feeling sad and considering forgiving my husband for the sake of our kids, but the other part was filled with anger and wanted revenge. I explained to my children that things weren't going well at work, which was the reason for my sadness, and they believed it because I still couldn't bring myself to tell them about their father. I didn't mention this in the previous post, but my sister and her ex-husband, who was really attractive and a genuinely nice person, I'm sorry but it's the truth, got divorced because she had been mentally offending him throughout their entire relationship, and it had recently escalated to physical offense. That's when he had enough and decided to divorce her. Because of who she is, she fabricated a lie, claiming that her husband was the one being offensive and other untrue things. I got in touch with her ex-husband to have a conversation and asked if he wanted to seek revenge. He agreed, and we made arrangements to meet at a public cafe. During our talk, we discussed how offensive she had been and how he also suspected she had feelings for my husband. I shared what I had witnessed, and together we decided to begin our revenge plan. We began by reporting my sister to the police for the offense. At first, the officer was doubtful, but there was evidence, including a bruise she left on him and threatening texts she sent. The police said they would pursue the case and advised us to hire a lawyer before sending us home. Following that, I withdrew all the money from our joint account and moved it to my own. Since I owned the house, my plan was to evict him. I then hired a lawyer and initiated the divorce process. I knew it would be a tough and lengthy battle, but I was determined to do whatever it took to escape from this terrible man. A few days later, I sat my kids down and shared everything with them. My son was really angry, but my daughter didn't believe me at all. She accused me of lying, and I reassured her that even though she thought that, I wouldn't prevent her from seeing her dad. Later that same day, I arrived home from work to find my parents, my husband's parents, and my aunt all gathered together at her house. I had no idea this was happening. It turned out my aunt had reached her breaking point with my sister and decided to spill the beans to the whole family about what I had witnessed. She also revealed that my sister had been in and out of jail, and my aunt was the one who bailed her out each time. My parents were really angry and started shouting, expressing their disappointment in her. My mom even slapped her tightly and said they never wanted to see her again. Regarding my husband's parents, they expressed their disbelief, saying they never imagined he could stoop so low, especially considering his mom raised him as a single mom before meeting his stepdad, whom he referred to as his dad. Then, my daughter stood up and yelled at her dad, expressing her strong dislike for him and declaring that she never wanted to see him again. She ran upstairs to the room she shared with her brother at my aunt's house and slammed the door behind her. My son gave his dad a look of disappointment and then followed his sister upstairs. My husband knelt before me, begging for forgiveness. I gave him 2 days to pack his things and leave the house, warning that I'd call the cops if he didn't comply. He started sobbing, pleading that he had nowhere else to go. His parents had made it clear he wasn't welcome back there. I remained firm, expressing my desire for a divorce. Eventually, he agreed and left with teary eyes. 2 days later, I returned home with my kids. They hadn't been to school since our conversation and were finding it tough, especially my daughter. I sat them down and held them in my arms, assuring them that we were strong and would overcome this challenge together, no matter what. I promised to always be there for them. They both broke down in tears, and we stayed like that until they fell asleep. Later, I woke them up and took them to their beds, then went downstairs and had a breakdown of my own. I knew I couldn't let my kids see how much this was affecting me. I had to stay strong for them. I heard the doorbell ring, thinking it was my ex-husband, but it turned out to be my sister's ex-husband who came to visit. He comforted me with a hug as I cried, expressing how overwhelmed I felt about handling everything on my own. He stayed the night, and when I woke up, he had made breakfast for me and my kids, and they seemed to enjoy his company. He asked if they wanted to go somewhere special, and they were unsure, but he convinced them, and they eventually agreed, hurrying off to get ready. I thanked him warmly and hugged him back, expressing my gratitude. For clarity, my sister's ex has always been close with my kids. After they left, I called my lawyer and had a conversation before meeting with them. When I returned home, what I saw almost made me cry. I noticed that Thomas had ordered their favorite takeout and was sitting on the sofa, eating it, while my daughter snuggled up next to him, with red eyes from crying. Quietly, I took off my shoes and jacket and entered the living room, wearing a big smile on my face. My son rushed to me, giving me a big hug, and then we all sat down together to enjoy the night. Afterwards, I had a conversation with my kids, and we agreed to start seeing a therapist. Thomas was supportive and encouraged them to give it a try since he was already seeing one himself. My husband has been bombarding my phone with texts and calls, but I decided to block him. That's the latest update. If anything changes, I'll let you all know. Since then, my kids haven't spoken to their dad, and I also cut off contact with my parents. I also got tested for STDs and the results came back negative. Update. My daughter is doing her best, and by that I mean there are times when she comes to either me or Thomas crying about how much she hates her dad. On other occasions, she goes to her dad seeking comfort. I don't hold it against her, and I never will. It's heartbreaking to see her suffer so much. All she wants is for our family to be together again, but I know it's not possible because the damage has already been done. Sometimes she has episodes where she becomes emotionally overwhelmed and seems disconnected from what's happening around her. Occasionally, she slips up and calls Thomas dad, which isn't a bad thing. But I could never date my sister's ex, no matter how terrible she may be. It's just something I can't do. Regarding my son, he has been emotionally closed off. I sometimes find him crying alone at night, and I go to comfort him with a hug. We talk, and I stay with him until he falls asleep. This is the only way I can truly understand how he feels because he rarely communicates with me, no matter how much I try. As for my ex, he completely ended things with my sister and hasn't spoken to her since. He found a well-paying job after getting fired from his dad's company, and he now lives in a nice house. It turns out he had been saving money just in case I found out about his affair with my sister. My daughter informs me about all of this, but I never pressure her. She wants me to know what's happening in his life. My son doesn't talk to his father and doesn't visit him, and I won't force him to. My ex has been trying to contact me and sends flowers and gifts. I accept them because I don't want to waste things. Despite everything, I still love him, and it's not easy to let go of those feelings. Based on what I've heard, my sister is living in her car and working at a very low-paying job. I want to clarify that if she becomes homeless, I'll help her because I can't bear to see her on the streets, especially knowing how dangerous our town can be at night. Thomas has been a tremendous support for all of us, and he's just wonderful in every way. One more thing about Thomas is that he discovered he is bi and started dating a guy named Logan not too long ago. Logan has also been a great help, and my kids adore both of them. While my son fully loves them, my daughter is growing closer to them every day. I met this guy, and we've been talking and working out together a lot. He ignites the same spark in me that my ex used to when we were dating. I'm not saying I'll start dating him, but he brings me a lot of happiness. I haven't told my kids about him yet. That's all for now, and I'll keep you updated if anything else happens. Thank you all so much for the love and support. It means the world to me, and I love you all so much. Hey everyone, I posted an update not too long ago, and two things that received a lot of attention were 1. Me accepting gifts from my ex, and 2. Helping my sister in the future. Let me address the first one. I don't throw away the gifts from him because I don't like wasting things that are perfectly fine. Thomas came up with a good idea, suggesting that I could donate the gifts to a women's shelter or orphanage. He usually gives me flowers, teddy bears, or jewelry, which I won't use, so I'll be giving them away to others who might appreciate them. Regarding helping my sister, I don't mean inviting her to live in my house. Instead, I'm considering giving her financial assistance. In my country, it's really dangerous for women to be alone at night. I'll only help her if my parents don't step in. I know what she did was wrong, but I can't just stand by and watch her face harm or danger. Edit. Don't worry, I would never let that awful person close to my kids, especially not Thomas. She ruined her life. And the only thing I'll make sure of is that she keeps her car and nothing else. No contact with us. I wouldn't cause the people around me more trauma than they already have. Regarding my ex, we have no future together, and I'm determined to make sure he understands that. Someone mentioned that my daughter might be saying things to her dad, and I hope she is. I want him to know how much better we're doing without him. As for the money he saved up, I don't want it. I have a well-paying job, and my kids always get what they need when they need it. So, we don't need his help or his tainted money. That was everything for now. Have a wonderful day, you guys. And again, thank you for the support. You have no idea how much you've helped me. I grew up with a single mom because my dad passed away when I was only 2 years old. Throughout most of my life, I focused on my career, and my mom supported me in that pursuit. However, at the age of 20, I met my ex-girlfriend, and we started dating. We were initially colleagues, but she mentioned that she would soon work in a different sector. Later on, she met another guy at her new workplace and claimed to be in love with him while still being in a relationship with me. I only found out about her infidelity when she admitted to having closeness with him after a girls' night out with her friends. I immediately broke up with her and asked her to leave. A few hours later, while trying to process what happened, my mom called me and started shouting, saying that she hadn't raised me to act like this. I was confused and asked her what she meant. She told me that my ex-girlfriend had accused me of cheating on her and claimed to have proof of it on my phone. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I tried talking to my mother, explaining that the opposite is true, and she was the one who cheated on me, but she didn't believe me. Part of the reason might be that she and my ex-girlfriend genuinely loved each other. I never had an issue with their relationship before. I actually liked how well they got along. However, my mother called me a liar and threatened to disinherit me from her will, not wanting a cheater as a son. She said she never wanted to see me again. Later, my grandparents called me, expressing their disappointment in me and suggesting that I deserve any bad things that may come my way. You know what made it even worse? I discovered that my cheating ex-girlfriend continued to meet with my mom after everything she had done. All of this was incredibly painful for me. The only person who stood by my side was my best friend, and he was really angry with my ex-girlfriend. I talked to him, and he hugged me while I cried in his arms. I know some people might find it unusual for two guys, but his support helped me tremendously in getting through this tough time. 1 year later, when I thought I had moved on, the doorbell rang, and I opened it to find my mom with tears in her eyes. My emotions came rushing back, and I couldn't hold back my tears. I slammed the door shut and angrily asked her what the heck she wanted here. She said she wanted to talk to me and that she was so sorry. After she begged for 15 minutes straight, I finally gave in and opened the door again. She told me that my ex had admitted to cheating when she was drunk. My mom apologized sincerely, realizing that she had failed as a mother by not believing her own child. I told her that I accept her apology, but I don't want to see her right now, and I may never be able to forgive her, even though she begged me to. In the past few months, she has been calling me daily, claiming she just wants to hear my voice. She says she misses me, apologizes again, and asks if I could come over. Her voice always sounds pained, and she constantly expresses her love for me. She knows I might hate her, but she can't bear the thought of that. To be honest, I don't hate her. She's still my mom, but our trust is shattered. I can never fully trust her again because what if I enter another relationship? What if she believes someone else over me again? I appreciate her efforts, but I can't forgive her or even see her right now. I hope she understands that I need time to heal and process everything. Update. After reading many comments yesterday, I decided to meet with my mom today to clear things up. I texted her and she didn't hesitate. She showed up at my door within 15 minutes. Many of you made good points about what I should ask her. Although she called me several times, we rarely had a proper conversation. So when she came over, I sat her down in the living room. There, I asked about my grandparents, her will, and if she's still in contact with my ex. She explained that she had informed my grandparents, and she expected them to call me, but it seems they were too stubborn to do so. She also assured me that I am still in her will. Then she started talking negatively about my ex, claiming that when she found out about the affair, she punched her so hard that my ex lost a few teeth. I find it hard to believe that particular detail, but I thought it was amusing to hear nonetheless. She said she told my ex to duck off and kicked her out of the house. She began apologizing again and expressed that she knows how badly she messed up. She understands that I may never trust her again, but she's determined to do everything she can to make things right. She revealed that her past experiences with infidelity made this a sensitive topic for her, and admitted that she regrets not believing me or listening to my side of the story. I stayed quiet as she explained all of this. Then, I asked her how I could be sure I could trust her now. I questioned what would happen if I faced a similar situation, and if she would just abandon me again. She assured me that I have her word, but I replied that her word doesn't mean much because I don't trust her in the first place. She didn't respond adequately to my answer, and continued pleading for my forgiveness. I told her that for now, I can't forgive her, and I might never be able to. But I do see her efforts. If she wants me back in her life, she needs to demonstrate that I can rely on her. She started to tear up, trying to hold back her tears the whole time. But eventually, she couldn't hold it in and broke down crying. In a whimpering voice, she asked if she could at least give me a hug. I agreed to that, and she promised to make things right, no matter what it takes, before she left. While I'm somewhat touched by how much she regrets her actions, I'm really worried about my own reaction to all of this. When she broke down and I saw my own mother crying on the floor, I didn't feel anything. I wasn't sad, angry, or happy, and I couldn't show any empathy for her. It was just too difficult for me. Throughout the year of having no contact with her, I had refused to go to therapy, but maybe it's not too late to consider it now. Update. Hey everyone! Some of you may have been waiting for an update since my last one was 4 months ago, so I've been going to therapy, and I feel much better now. However, that doesn't mean I've forgotten what happened. I have to admit my mom has really improved herself. Last month, when I moved into a new apartment, she immediately agreed to help, even canceling important work appointments to be there for me. She calls me almost every day to check on me, and even brings me lunch at my workplace. She visits me at home just to see me and says she wants to hear my voice. Despite her efforts, I still can't fully trust her, and I'm unsure if I ever will. But I do acknowledge her attempts to make amends. She also spoke to my grandparents, and they apologized, but I don't really care about them. They were still unpleasant even after the truth came out. Some of you might be curious about my ex. The last I heard, she was cheated on by the guy she cheated on me with. He saw her as just a fling. It's just hearsay from my best friend's friends, and honestly, I don't care about her at all. Though, if it's true, it would be some great karma. Today was a significant day for me, and I hope I made the right decision. My mom has been visiting me almost every day after work, sharing about her day and asking about mine. She's always concerned about how I'm feeling and if she can help with anything. Today we had a genuinely good time. We watched a movie, she cooked for me, and it was an overall wonderful day. I can't deny it. Every day when she left, she hugged me goodbye, but I never hugged her back. I was still cautious. However, today, when she hugged me, I finally hugged her back and told her that I forgive her. My heart was pounding hard and fast when those words came out. It took a lot of strength for me to say this because I had no idea how she'd react. Just a few months ago, I couldn't have imagined saying those words. At first, she looked surprised, but within seconds, she broke down in tears and hugged me, thanking me repeatedly. I felt a bit lost and didn't know how to respond. She kept expressing her love for me and how proud she is to have me as her son. She acknowledged her terrible mistake in doubting me and feeling awful for ever thinking I could cheat. She assured me that she'll always be there for me and promised to call me tomorrow. I'm not exaggerating when I say the whole moment felt like a scene from a drama movie, but I'm okay with it. Yes, she made a terrible mistake, but I can't hold on to this unforgiveness forever, especially after witnessing all the efforts she's put into repairing our relationship. This might not be the update some of you wanted to read, but I feel good about it, and that's what matters most. I've been looking after my younger brother, Justin, 33M, since he was 10. Our parents passed away when I was only 16, so I had to step up and take care of the household while he was still little. I did everything for him, and he meant the world to me. Maybe I spoiled him a bit too much. Because of my responsibilities, I didn't date much until I met Melissa, 35F, about 10 years ago. We dated for 2 years, and it was great. My brother really liked her too. One day, I overheard a conversation Melissa was having with her friend. She was talking about me, saying she loves how I take care of her in every way, but she found me average in bed. Her friend asked her if she is going to talk to me about it, or how is she happy. She told her that her fixture is my brother. Then, she spilled the tea. She had been having an affair with Justin for the past 8 months. She justified it by saying she thinks Justin is better in bed than I am. It was incredibly painful to hear. I tried to act like I hadn't heard anything and went inside the house. So I confronted Justin about the whole thing. I know how to get him to talk. After he kept denying it, I pushed him hard on the matter. Finally, he couldn't hold it in anymore and admitted it was true. He stayed quiet to avoid hurting me. He's in love with Melissa and wants to marry her, but she won't leave me alone. I was beyond furious. I wanted to punch him in the face, but instead, I just told him he's dead to me and walked away. I threw Melissa out too, and she ended up crashing with my brother and his roommates. My brother kept banging on my door non-stop. It got so bad that I had to move in with a friend, and I made sure nobody told my brothers where I was. His calls and emails were all the same, that he was sorry, and he never wanted to hurt me and he will break up. I stopped the bank account I had set up for him, like a trust fund he could access when he turned 25. At that point, he wasn't my brother anymore. I fell into a deep depression. My eating and sleeping habits went all haywire. Every night I'd have nightmares of my brother and ex laughing at me, saying I was terrible in bed. They made it seem like if I had been better, she wouldn't have left me. Things got so bad that at one point, I found myself standing in front of a train track, feeling like I couldn't handle it anymore. Luckily, my few friends came to my rescue. They were my lifeline during that tough time, and I stayed with them for a whole year. I decided to seek help and went to therapy, attending group sessions too. Closeness became a big anxiety trigger for me, so I avoided dating for a long while. But my friend encouraged me to give it a shot, and I did try once with a one-night stand, but it didn't work out well for either of us. Even now I continue with therapy, but I'm happy to say that other areas of my life have improved. I started focusing on building new relationships with different people. I took the opportunity to travel and explore new hobbies. Most importantly, I learned to live for myself and put my well-being first. I've been with someone for 3 years now, and we're engaged and expecting a child together. Wendy, 32F, is a really sweet person. She knows all about my insecurities and the issues my brother caused me. She's been really mature and patient with me, and because of her, I've been able to trust someone enough to be in a relationship. A couple of days ago I received a wedding invitation in the mail, and guess who it's from? Yep, my brother. He's been keeping an eye on me from a distance and invited me to his wedding with none other than Melissa. Seeing their names together doesn't hurt as much now, but I feel kind of numb about the whole thing. If this had happened 8 years ago, I would have had a complete breakdown. I still feel this pain inside that I can't be happy for my brother on his big day. My fiancé suggests that we shouldn't go to the wedding and just delete the invitation. You know what? I just want to see them suffer. I don't have any love or blessings left for my brother. When our parents passed away, they entrusted me with taking care of him, and they said we'd look out for each other when we grew up. But he completely threw that away. It's not just the fact that Melissa cheated that hurts, it's more painful that my own brother betrayed me. Update. Hey guys! I've been thinking about giving you all an update soon. You know how much people on Reddit love updates, but I had to delay it because I have a baby girl now. When I made the original post, my fiancé, now wife, was already 8.5 months pregnant, and we ended up having an early delivery. Our baby girl, Emily, is just the cutest little thing, bringing so much joy to both of us. She's so tiny and adorable, and she's got eyes just like mine. It's unbelievable how we created something so precious. I can't get enough of holding her, and my wife gets a little annoyed sometimes because she thinks I might spoil her too much. Oh, and by the way, my fiancé and I got married pretty quickly in a simple court marriage. We didn't want a big wedding, and we're all doing just fine. Some of you asked how my brother knew my address. Well, he actually didn't. He only knew my email and my work email. He probably figured out which company I work for, and from there, he tracked down my email and sent an invitation. A few days ago, I received another email from my brother. I had forgotten to block him, so it got through. Usually, I don't check my work email much since most things are forwarded in Slack. In the email, my brother poured his heart out. He acknowledged that he knows I won't come to his wedding, but he still wanted me there on his big day. He apologized for what he did and admitted he'd never forgive himself for his actions. He knew he shouldn't have slept with Melissa, but he did it anyway. Growing up, he had always been jealous of me. He envied that I was the more capable brother, always looking after him like a babysitter. When Melissa approached him, he felt like he finally had some importance. Deep down, he knew he was in the wrong, and he wanted to stop. When I told him he was dead to me, it triggered a panic attack in him. He desperately tried to contact me, but my friends wouldn't reveal my location. They stood by my side and refused to be part of his wedding with Melissa, as they also saw me as a big brother figure. Even his own friends judged him harshly for what he had done. His life hit rock bottom when he heard from one of his friends that I had attempted to end my life. 2 years ago, Melissa and my brother made up. At that time, she was a single mom and felt guilty about her past actions because her child's father had cheated on her and left. She wanted to apologize to me, and that's how they rekindled their romance. However, things didn't go well, and my brother eventually called off the wedding and broke up with Melissa again. He still wants me to be there for his big day, even though I've disowned him. He's willing to do whatever it takes to reconcile, even if it takes a lifetime. That's pretty much the gist of it. There was a lot of emotional stuff in the email, but I chose to ignore it and deleted it. My therapist told me that forgiveness should come naturally from the subconscious when we genuinely feel we can forgive someone. It should only be an option if the person shows remorse through their actions, not just their words. Honestly, I don't want to forgive him. I know it may seem petty and cruel, but I'm happy with my life the way it is. Adding him to my life will just bring stress. My wife advised me to let it go and not hold him responsible at all. I fear that if I forgive him, he'll go right back to Melissa. He needs to sort out his own life and be an adult now. I've coddled him enough. It's time for him to take responsibility. People keep asking me about my brother's life, so I want to clear things up. Honestly, I have no clue what he's been up to. I deliberately moved far away from him and even changed jobs to create distance. He must have found out my workplace from where he sent the email. For a whole decade, I acted like he didn't exist, and therapy helped me cope with it. I treated him as if he were already dead. I'm not sure what happened between him and Melissa, but from his email, I can piece together that they dated for a few years and broke up. His friends didn't approve of him being with her, so they canceled the wedding because of Melissa. My brother mentioned he doesn't want to get married unless I'm there to support him, but honestly, it doesn't have to be Melissa. Anyone could fill that role. I don't know why Melissa came back, but she must have thought I would just accept her like a doormat. She should know me better than that. When it comes to holding a grudge, I admit I'm quite stubborn. I had no idea that my actions would have such an impact on my brother's friends. They were genuinely good people who used to hang out with us. Even though they were younger, they treated me like a brother. After I cut off contact with my brother, two of his friends, who never had a positive male role model, apologized to me. But I haven't stayed in touch with them. If he truly regretted what he did, he wouldn't have chosen to marry Melissa, the woman who played a big part in ruining my life along with my brother. Did he really think I would forget all the pain and trauma they caused me? Forgiveness doesn't set you free. It just creates another trap. Over the years, I've learned that forgiveness is a tool used by cowards who want to escape the consequences of their wrongdoings. They believe that by receiving forgiveness, the guilt they carry will magically disappear. But true forgiveness can never be forced. It has to be earned, and he hasn't done anything to earn it. Second story. Let me give you some background first. We've been together for a solid 6 years, and our lives are deeply connected. Before meeting my future wife, I only had one other serious girlfriend. We dated for 3 years, got married, and it's been about 2.5 years since we tied the knot. Like any long-term couple, we've had our ups and downs, fights, and romantic moments. Lately, things have been a bit tougher, but life is stressful. Due to financial reasons, we had to move in with her mother, and surprisingly, it's working for all of us. Recently, she's been spending a lot of time with one of our mutual friends. She hangs out with him quite frequently, especially when I'm busy with work. They do regular stuff like watching TV, having drinks, going to the beach, and so on. The visits have become much more frequent in the last few months, happening at least once a week, if not more. Lately, my friend has been avoiding me and not willing to hang out when I'm around. This made me more suspicious with each meeting. Last Friday, after a separate argument with my intoxicated wife, I had a strong urge to check her phone. This was unusual for me since I normally respect her privacy. But my suspicions got the best of me, and I gave in to the temptation. I looked at her text messages with the guy in question. What I discovered crushed me. The messages were explicit and detailed, going back at least 2 months. It made me feel sick to my stomach, and I became dizzy and pale as I read them. The messages referred to his tool in her mouth, with her mentioning how he makes her insatiable. I was in shock. It was hard to comprehend. My thoughts were all over the place. In just a few minutes, I experienced a flood of emotions I had never felt before. Disgust, betrayal, anger, regret, fear, and profound sadness. How could my beloved wife do this to me? I couldn't shake the image of her with that jerk, someone who had been my friend long before I even met her. How could he betray our friendship like that? In that moment, I even thought about resorting to extreme measures. I felt utterly shattered, crying uncontrollably beside my drunken wife. I can't forgive her. I made up my mind then and there that this is unforgivable. I need to leave and be on my own. The problem is, I don't have any money saved up and I don't have my own car. I hardly own anything at all. I decided not to confront her about knowing yet, so I can prepare myself for living alone. With the help of a few supportive friends, I managed to find a new place to move into. I also have another friend who's selling me their car. I'm getting my ducks in a row to drop a bomb on this cheating witch and get away. As it stands now, my plan is to pack and move all my belongings while she's at work tomorrow. I'll have to pick her up from work later in the day. When she gets home and sees all my stuff gone, the final argument will begin. I don't know exactly what I'll say, but I have a lot to express, and the words will come naturally. Edit. The issue I have here is that I'll need to use her car to move my stuff on Friday, so I'm considering a new plan. I'll write a concise but impactful note, more than just, I know, but not too lengthy. Leave it along with the car and keys at her workplace, and then a friend will pick me up so we can leave without a trace. This way, she'll read the note, be devastated, and return home to find all my belongings gone and no sign of me. I'm already preparing to hire a lawyer. I believe I have enough evidence, and I've familiarized myself with divorce laws in Maryland to cover my bases. Fortunately, we don't have significant assets, communal property, or children, which I'm thankful for. Update. As for Friday, it went as well as it could in a situation like this. I took the advice I received from Reddit and changed my plan before the day even began. There was no final argument. Despite learning the devastating news, our last week together went surprisingly well. We went to the beach early in the week and had an incredible closeness on Wednesday night. On Thursday, we had a fancy dinner, she paid for it, and then went to the movies, also her treat. Friday morning she seemed really happy, and we had a great closeness. I dropped her off at work, gave her a sincere hug, and said goodbye. Little did I know it would be our last conversation. Right away, I went to get the keys to my new place and some boxes for packing. I hurried home to start packing my things. My brother-in-law was home at the time, so I pulled him aside and shared the news. He was furious at his sister and completely supportive of me. We had a heartfelt conversation, and he was there for me as I packed. He was an amazing brother, and I made sure to let him know how much I appreciated his support. We cried and talked for a while, and he did everything he could to help me. Sadly, most of my belongings fit into just one carload in a small hatchback. After unloading the first trip, it was almost time for my friend with a truck to finish work. I went back to my old place, and my mother-in-law was there now. We had a long conversation, and she offered her support. While she didn't take sides, she understood my decision and was very encouraging. She assured me that I could count on her for help any time, and that I was still considered family to her. We talked and cried together for a while, although she hoped we could work things out. I explained that I could never forgive her daughter, and she respected my choice. I left my wife's car at the house and asked my mother-in-law to pick her up after work. Throughout the day, my wife was going crazy because I was ignoring her. She tried to reach me multiple times, called and sent countless messages, but I ignored them all. She even started calling my friends and family, worried that something had happened to me. When they spoke to me, I asked them to tell her that they couldn't get a hold of me either. I initially planned to leave a note at home, but I got caught up in emotions while talking to her mother-in-law and completely forgot. I might be seen as weak, but eventually I did send her a message saying, "I'm not going to discuss this right now, and I'll continue to ignore your texts. There's nothing you can say to me at this moment. I hope you're happy with him, and I hope it was worth it. I can never forgive you." Of course, after that, she sent me a few messages, begging and apologizing. She admitted what she did, said she felt like the worst person in the world, and claimed that I am the love of her life and the only one she wants. She even had the nerve to mention, "We broke it off almost 2 weeks ago," as if that's supposed to make me feel better. I haven't responded to anything else she said. Now, let's fast forward to my new place. Unpacking and settling in has been great for my morale. I'm in high spirits, feeling optimistic and alive. I'm moving in with my longest known friend, who's been there for me since I first moved to Maryland over 10 years ago. Spending time with close friends, having good conversations, and enjoying nature is helping me heal. With this second chance at independence, I plan to take a step back, reflect on my life, and work on improving myself and finding happiness within. I want to shed a few pounds, focus on enhancing my musical abilities. I play guitar, bass, drums, and dabble in electronic music. And most importantly, go out and experience the world and the people in it. Traveling a bit, meeting new people, and exploring new places are some of my goals. Despite the terrible situation I'm going through, I feel revitalized and full of energy. Update. I haven't shared an update because I don't think it would be as exciting as the divorce story. Life is unpredictable and doesn't always go as planned. But in general, things have been going well. I'm enjoying my independent life, and I even have a new female friend. I'm still waiting for a year of separation to finalize the divorce. Third story. Just to give you some background, we were married for 16 years and together for 20. We have 4 kids, aged 24, 17, 10, and 7. I found out about her affair with a co-worker after hacking her phone and seeing their messages. The divorce was finalized in December. In December, I learned she was seeing the affair partner right after moving out through a text meant for him, but sent to me. Overall, our divorce has been very friendly. I got to keep the house, my car, Harley, and business. She only asked for child support, nothing more. We're still good friends, but she lies to me a lot, so I'm cautious about what she tells me. We're doing a great job co-parenting our kids. The issue is that my ex decided to work extra hours today and asked if I could take care of our 7 and 10-year-old boys. I had no problem with that. But as soon as we got in the car, my 7-year-old started bombarding me with questions about mom's new friend. Apparently, the AP and his 12-year-old son stayed over at my ex's place last Friday. The AP apparently slept in bed with my ex. The AP's 12-year-old son had a sleepover with my 7-year-old and told him, "My dad and your mom are boyfriend and girlfriend," which left my son feeling confused. He was also told that the AP's dad might become his new dad. And to top it off, my son asked why this guy was sleeping in bed with his mom. On Saturday, they spent the day shopping at the trampoline park, having lunch, and acting like a family. I was totally blindsided by all of this, and it's clear my ex didn't have a conversation with our son about it. This was the first time my son met these people. I don't think it's fair that I have to clean up my ex's mess, and I find it highly inappropriate for the AP to sleep in her bed. We're not fully divorced yet, and neither is the AP. How should I handle this situation? My son is confused, and I don't think I should have to cover for his mother's bad decisions. Several months later, my ex called me crying and asked if I could take the kids overnight again. I was concerned and asked what was wrong. She replied that karma hit me hard. She explained that something felt off, so she decided to check her affair partner's phone while he was in the shower. To her shock, she found a long string of messages on Facebook with texting, pictures, and explicit conversations, the same way I had discovered her affair. My ex is 39, her affair partner is 52, and his new affair partner is married and just 28. Now don't get me wrong, part of me wanted to rejoice because it finally happened to her. I had warned her from day one that the guy was a predator. However, after listening to her, I realized she was deeply in love with him, and another part of me felt sorry for her. Interestingly, she apologized to me more that day than she ever did about cheating on me. She said things like, "I am so sorry I put you through this," and "I never realized how much this hurt you." I took her apologies with a grain of salt, because I've moved on and found someone else. We've been happily dating for the last 6 months. The main point of this post is to let everyone know that even in the toughest divorce situations, things can work out, and sometimes karma will step in and bring a small piece of retribution. 2 years later, there was nearly a second cheating incident with the affair partner, but my ex caught him before they could meet up. She has complete control over his phone, monitoring all his apps and constantly checking his messages. Sounds like a living nightmare to me. My ex and the AP are still kind of together, but it's a really strange on-off situation. Let me explain. According to her, they're not together, and both of their Facebook pages say they're single. However, She still occasionally wears his engagement ring, just like how she refused to return my $12,000 wedding ring. Ha! She stays at his apartment now and then, but claims they're just friends. Yeah, right. Who stays over at their ex's place, sleeps in their bed, and calls it just hanging out. It's amusing how she thinks everyone is naive enough to believe that. In the meantime, she had to change jobs because she was really close friends with the plant manager there. They were always talking, going to lunch together, riding Harleys, taking walks on breaks and all that. Rumors started swirling around, and things got messy at work. Her work friend is a married guy with 3 kids, but he still visits her place occasionally and takes her out on Harley rides, to the movies, or whatever they do. Apparently, our teenage son caught them kissing in the driveway, and he didn't know who the guy was. So he called me to ask, and I played dumb, telling him to ask his mother who that was. He got the impression that she and the AP were still together, because the guy was over the day before, grilling out and mowing her lawn. Then, there's another new guy on the scene. She won't say how or where she met him, but they went on 2 dates and she didn't seem too interested in him. It turns out they knew each other from a previous job, and he kept talking about how he wanted to be with all her friends and coworkers from back in the day. The other day we were discussing retirement. I told her about my plan to semi-retire in 6 years, once child support ends and all the kids turn 18. My idea is to move to a warmer climate down south. She started with a sob story, saying she had to raise all our children while I built the business, and she'll probably have to work until she dies and will never get to retire. But that's far from the truth. I put in just as much time, housework and effort into our family as she did. There were even a few years when I did even more than her, while she was out partying with her friends 4 or 5 nights a week. In response to her, I said, "You made your choice to leave me and go with your AP." It was amazing to see the expression on her face. I used to be her retirement plan, but now she only has $14,000 in her 401k, and she's in her early 40s. Even if she stays with her AP or goes back to him, he doesn't have much money saved up for retirement or any significant savings at all. So there's some karma in that. Here's some advice for those of you going through a divorce or about to go through one. My life was completely shattered from October 2018 to December 2019, when our divorce was finalized. But fast forward a few years to now, and I've never been happier. I'm planning to retire early and enjoy some beach time. My relationship with my kids is stronger and better than ever. When things seem dark and terrible, be a good person. Don't lie or deceive. Avoid being malicious, and don't involve the kids in any conflicts between you and your ex-partner. Keep your head up and keep moving forward. The further you walk away from the darkness, the better your life will become. 4th story. I, 40F, have been silently observing on Reddit for a long time, never sharing my story. It's a typical Reddit tale you might come across, but I feel the need to let it out to the world. Thank goodness for Reddit. So let me tell you about my sister, 43F, whom I'll call Ursula. Yes, like the villain. She's always made my life a living hell. Ursula is incredibly manipulative and a narcissist. She acts nice to me when she needs something, but then completely ignores me afterwards. When we were growing up, I thought we were close as sisters. We didn't have the usual fights that make sisters jealous of each other. Now, looking back as an adult, I believe she actually hated me. She used to give me backhanded compliments like, "Your face looks better with your glasses," or "You have a boy crush. I thought you were a lesbian. I used to be a tomboy." I always tried to be like her and be everyone's favorite, thinking she was helpful and kind. Or at least, that's what she wanted us to believe. She always made me feel insecure about my looks and the people I dated. When I was 17, I had my first boyfriend, and she made me believe he wasn't right for me, and so on. I ended up breaking up with him, my mistake. Later, I moved out of state for college, studying engineering while she went to business school. Yet, whenever I returned home for holidays, she would still give me those backhanded compliments. At 21, I started dating my ex-husband Jordan. Thankfully, at that time, my sister was focused on someone else, so her attention wasn't on Jordan. He also wasn't her type. We dated for 3 years and got married. For 4 years my life was happy. But during that time, my sister announced she was pregnant. We all assumed it was from her then boyfriend Remy. One day I visited my sister with some food for her pregnancy. She gave me permission to enter her place and handed me a key. As I went inside without knocking, I was surprised to find Jordan's shoes outside. Feeling suspicious, I entered her bedroom, and as you might have guessed, they were without clothes and had closeness. To keep it short, I divorced Jordan. I was in a lot of pain and devastated. My parents supported me, but they seemed to shift their focus more towards my sister and Jordan. Yes, she was pregnant with his child, and it hurt to see them together. Neither of them ever apologized. They just shrugged it off as, shit happens. To get away from the situation, I moved away from home 8 years ago when I got a work contract in England. It was a fresh start for me there. I met Peter, a single dad, and we fell in love, got married, and now have a son together. I don't have any contact with my sister. I rarely talk to my dad, but he keeps me updated. Recently, I found out that Jordan and Ursula got married and had 2 more kids. That's pretty much all I knew about them until now. Turns out Jordan cheated on Ursula, and they're going through a nasty fight. To make things worse, 2 of their kids aren't even Jordan's, so Ursula hasn't been faithful at all. My dad said it's a complete mess, and they'll probably end up getting divorced, but she's pushing for alimony. I hung up the phone and poured myself a drink. Honestly, I'm glad I'm thousands of miles away from all that drama. My mom called me too, saying she needs me, but I'm not sure if I want to go or not. As much as I might enjoy seeing Ursula's life falling apart, I'm not sure if I want to get involved in all that drama. Edit. Since people seem curious and want all the details, I thought I'd add more information. My sister cheated on Remy, who was a really nice guy. He was devastated when he found out that my sister's child wasn't his, but actually Jordan's. Afterward, Remy moved on and found a wonderful wife. I still follow him on Instagram. My parents were angry at Ursula, but she's a manipulative person and convinced everyone that Jordan forced her into having closeness with him, threatening to divorce me if she didn't comply. She made it seem like she was saving my marriage by sleeping with my husband. How typical. I got married in London, but my relatives couldn't come due to the long distance. However, my father was able to attend. Unfortunately, my mother couldn't come because she was recovering from back surgery at that time. Some people wrongly believe that my parents were bad, but that's not true. They were just regular human beings. I understand they were in a tough situation having to choose between 2 kids. Besides, they were becoming grandparents and couldn't abandon my sister. Even though she's difficult, they didn't let her get away with everything. They supported me during my divorce and paid for my therapy after it. They couldn't completely cut off Ursula because she was pregnant. My dad and mom have a strained relationship with her and Jordan, but they haven't disowned them because of their kids. My dad even refused to walk Ursula down the aisle at her wedding, which I didn't attend. However, I kept in touch with my parents after I moved to England, and they were supportive of me. My mom couldn't come to my wedding due to her back surgery, as she's in her 60s and has various health issues. My dad attended the wedding. Later, my mom managed to visit me after my honeymoon, but she was devastated that she couldn't meet my son due to flight difficulties. I'm now going back to my hometown for some business, and I would have gone regardless of the phone call. It's been 4 years since I last saw my mom and dad, and I miss them. Despite my feelings towards my sister, I don't hate my parents. I may have given the wrong impression of my parents. They are not bad people, and they do love both of their kids. I don't believe they sidelined me. My dad and Ursula's relationship is still strained, but he's only involved because of the grandkids. My mom is the same way. I never asked them to cut off Ursula because she needed them, but I kept my distance from her. They still don't like Jordan and Ursula. My dad even refused to walk her down the aisle when she married Jordan. I distanced myself for my own reasons. I got a job in the UK and traveled around Europe, something I always wanted to do. Now, I'm settled in my life with my 4-year-old son, husband, and stepdaughter. My mom and dad still keep in touch with me. Unfortunately, I haven't had the chance to meet my mom in 3 years because of COVID and other issues. Now I might have to visit my hometown because of a project, and I also miss them. I don't blame my mom for not attending my wedding. She had a surgery, and it was difficult for her to move. She was present on video chat during the whole ceremony. It's been 4 years since we've seen each other, and I believe she misses me a lot. I miss her too. Update. So I arrived in my home country with my husband and son. My mom and dad picked us up from the airport, and it was wonderful to see them after so many years. They looked tired and pale, as if they haven't eaten or slept well for a long time. My mom was especially happy to meet my husband and son, since she hadn't met them before. I asked them not to tell my sister that I'm here, as I'll only be staying for a few weeks before leaving. Right now, I'm staying with my aunt. As for my sister, my mom told me she's living with her and her kids. I learned some things about my sister. She was having an affair with her former married boss, and it turns out the 2 kids she has are actually his. The boss's wife found out and confronted my sister, resulting in a physical altercation. Interestingly, the company where the boss works is owned by his father-in-law. Yeah, her boss is going to lose his job because of the affair. My sister had already switched jobs before all this drama unfolded, but she continued the affair. Now, because of the whole situation, she's at risk of losing her new job too, as the company's owner is friends with the boss's wife. It's like she's gotten herself into a difficult situation she can't escape from. Jordan has also quit his job because he refuses to pay my sister alimony and child support for the kids that aren't his. He's planning to sue the boss for child support for those kids. They are constantly fighting, and my mom says it's taking a toll on Jordan's mental state. On top of that, he was also having an affair with his coworker. My mom wants to kick my sister out, but she can't because of her kids. She may hate my sister, but she doesn't want to punish the innocent kids. I can't help but feel sorry for those children too. They don't deserve to be caught in the middle of such a messy situation with their parents. I want to make it clear that my parents are not bad people. They have been very supportive of me. The only reason they continue to have contact with my sister Ursula is because of her kids. I feel sorry for my mom because she doesn't have much time left, and with her illness, she may not have the strength to handle all this drama. I know my sister will somehow find out that I am here, but I am ready for that. I don't want to see her because I know she'll pull me into her mess, but I plan to enjoy the few weeks I have with my husband and child. Hello everyone. I'm currently in a difficult situation and I'm unsure if I'm making the right decisions. By the way, this is my first post here, so please forgive me if I miss any details. Feel free to ask for more information. Let me share my current situation. I'm a 25-year-old male and I've been in a relationship with my wife, who is 27 years old, for 8.5 years. Last August, during our trip to the USA, I proposed to her. We legally got married 10 weeks ago, had a church ceremony 5 weeks ago, and went on our honeymoon 2 weeks after that. During our honeymoon, I noticed something unusual for the first time. She was constantly texting on her phone and tried to hide it or turn off the display whenever I glanced at it to see who she was talking to. When I asked, she claimed she was texting her friends or her sister. This made me suspicious, and in the beginning of the second week, I decided to check her phone while she was asleep. It was the first time I had ever felt the need to do this because I had always trusted her. To my shock, I discovered that the woman I believed loved me, the one I had married just a month prior, was cheating on me with someone else, a 39-year-old man. He works as a cook where she is employed, so they see each other daily during the week. We still had to stay together for the rest of the week and our flight home during our honeymoon, so I didn't confront her about it at that time because I didn't want to have a fight while on our honeymoon. I have no idea how I managed to hold it in. After further investigation when we returned home, I found out that their relationship had begun at the end of November last year, which was after our engagement but well before our wedding. I don't understand why she didn't mention this to me earlier when we had plenty of time to cancel our wedding. Somehow, I didn't catch on until it was too late. I haven't talked to my wife about this yet, so she doesn't know that I'm aware of her affair. However, I think she might suspect that I'm suspicious of something. We still have tasks left, like selecting our wedding photos for the album and writing thank you letters for the gifts we received, which is why I haven't brought up this issue until now. But I'm feeling really tormented inside and I need to address this situation. I'm currently looking into whether I can legally remove her from our house. We rented it together and both our names are on the contract, and whether our wedding can be annulled or if I need to go through a divorce process. Here's an important detail. The other guy is separated from his wife and has 2 teenage children. He's not getting a divorce right now because they have some outstanding loans to repay. Additionally, they frequently express their love for each other and a desire to be together fully, but they can't do so at the moment. From what I know, their plan involves my wife having children with me, since the other guy already has some, and then, when he's ready, either divorced or otherwise, they will pursue a relationship together. My dilemma is that I feel guilty for contemplating divorce less than 2 months after our wedding, especially after the big celebration and all the gifts we received. However, I can't continue living like this. I'm not sure what I'm expecting from you all. Maybe just confirmation that I'm making the right choice by leaving her and seeking a divorce. Thank you for any advice or insights you can provide. Best regards. Update. I'm planning to speak with our office lawyer today to see if they have any information on this matter. If they don't, I'll contact a specific lawyer to get some advice on how to proceed. Regarding our financial situation, neither of us is wealthy. We're both doing okay. If she worked full